Hello fifth graders, this is Mrs. Kelzer and today we are going to do more work with writing algebraic expressions or maybe even some algebraic equations to match with real world situations. So let's get ourselves warmed up here. The problem that we are starting with, Joe and Maria are fifth graders. Joe is 2 inches taller than Maria. Make a table of 4 possible heights for Joe and Maria. So if we just make a T-chart, and then if we said, here is Maria's height and here is Joe's height. Put in a possible height for Maria. She's in 5th grade, so let's make it somewhat reasonable. So maybe Maria is 50 inches tall. Then how tall is Joe? 2 inches taller, so 52. Now on your paper, why don't you go ahead and fill in the table with a couple more possibilities that would work. And I'll have you push pause while you do that. Okay, did you come up with a couple? Yours might match mine and they might not. If Maria was 44 inches, 2 more than that, Joe would be 46. If Maria's 51, Joe would be 53. What if I told you that Joe was 48? Then what is Maria? Go ahead and fill that in. Did you say 46? Because Maria would be 2 less than Joe. Okay, so at this point we haven't written any algebraic expressions of any sort. We've simply filled in the table with possibilities. Are these all the possibilities? Definitely not. Okay, so algebraic expressions, I know we've talked about them before, but it's an expression that uses variables. The idea is to express relationships between two quantities. That means between two amounts. So in the example, Claude earns $6 an hour. Use a variable to express the relationship between Claude's earnings and the amount of time worked. Well, if Claude worked for 1 hour, he would make $6. If he worked for 2 hours, he would make 12. If he worked for 3 hours, he would make 18. What you're doing is taking the number of hours, h, times 6, and you can just put in whichever number of hours you would like, and you will get then your solution. Okay. We can look at another example here. Write the statement as an algebraic expression. So they give us a real world situation. Marshall is 5 years older than Carol. And you're thinking, great. Only I don't know how old Carol is. Correct. So that becomes your variable. Carol's age is C because you have no idea how old she is. So you pick a variable. Then Marshall is 5 years older than Carol. So if Carol is C, then Marshall is C plus 5. Evaluating expressions. I'm down at the middle of the page right here. Evaluating expressions. To evaluate something is to find out what it is worth. To evaluate an algebraic expression, first replace each variable with its value. And we've done some of that. So if we had the Claude algebraic expression, we said 6 times however many hours he worked. Well, if he worked 3 hours, then he would make $18. So algebraic expressions. That's a little review, and that's what we're working on today. All right, so you have your guide handy, and our first problem is about Sue. So this is problem number 1. Sue weighs 10 pounds less than Jamal. If Jamal's weight is J, then what represents Sue's weight? So again, Jamal is J. So here's Jamal. He's J. And Sue weighs 10 pounds less than Jamal. So if we have Jamal's weight 10 pounds less, what would that algebraic expression look like? Jamal's weight 10 pounds less. That is a subtraction, and we can check and see. Oopsie, sorry about that. J minus 10 is going to represent Sue's weight. Go ahead and read our next one with me. Isaac collected twice as many cans as Alex. If A equals the number of cans Alex collected, then what represents the number of cans Isaac collected? So Isaac collected twice as many as Alex. How many did Alex collect? I don't know. That I don't know is your variable, which they're telling us to use A. So Alex is A, and Isaac is twice as many as that. So what would that algebraic expression look like? And if you need to push pause, go ahead and do so. Did you say 2 times A? Or again, we want to start doing that number next to the letter, 2A. All right, next up, there are half as many problems in today's assignment as there were in yesterday's, and I see a grammatical error. Does anybody else see it in that sentence? Did you get it? The assignment belongs to today. It should be today apostrophe S. Today's assignment. So, if Y is the number of problems in yesterday's assignment. So how many did you do yesterday? Oh, yesterday I did Y. Alrighty. Well, today you're going to do half as many. If you're stuck, ladies and gentlemen, I might suggest making a table kind of like we did early on. So basically, I would go like this. Here's yesterday, and here is today. So if yesterday you had 10 problems, how many would you have today? There are half as many problems today as yesterday. Half of 10 is 5. If yesterday there were 20 problems, then how many would there be today? Reminder, today there's half as many as yesterday. Right, today there would be 10. If yesterday there was only 4 problems, then how many would there be today? Right, 2. So now if we say, okay, yesterday there were Y problems. How were you getting from yesterday to today's number? What were you doing? Right. You were dividing by 2. So today there would be Y divided by 2. That's one way to write that algebraic expression. Or, can you remember, I know I mentioned it yesterday some, in an algebraic expression, how do they often show division? And you can push pause if you need to record answers. Y divided by 2, or Y over 2. All right, my friends, that was your little mini lesson. And so your next task is to complete journal pages 341 and 342. When you're done, you can either check in with Mrs. Kelzer in class or with the video. You may have to check with my directions because it may change depending on what time it is in class. But again, pages 341 and 342 in your journal. Okay, if you did page 341 and 342 in your journal and you're ready to take a look at those problems with me on the video, here we go. Looking at number 2, if Leon gets a raise of $5 per week, then what's his salary? Well, we have to look over here. How much does Leon make right now per week? It says he makes S dollars. So if he gets a raise of $5 per week, it would be S plus 5. In number 3, if Allie's grandfather is 50 years older than Allie, then what represents Allie's age? Her grandfather is G, so he's G, and we're trying to figure out what would Allie be. Allie's grandfather is 50 years older than Allie. That means Allie is 50 years younger than her grandfather. Okay, so if her grandfather is 70 and he's 50 years more than Allie, then Allie would be 20. If her grandfather was 60, then Allie would be 10. Well, they're saying her grandfather is G. So what do you do to the grandfather's age to get to Allie's age? And think about what did we do here? How did you get from 70 to 20? How did you get from 60 to 10? Right, you're taking the grandfather's age and you subtract 50, and that gives you Allie's age, G minus 50. Moving along, number 4, 7 baskets of potatoes weigh how many pounds? Well, if we look over here, one basket weighs P pounds. So if I have one basket, that weighs P. If I have 2 baskets, that would weigh P plus P, or 2P. If I have 3 baskets, that would be 3 times P, or 3P. So if I have 7 baskets and each one weighs P pounds, I would have 7 times P. Or hopefully we're getting that idea that the most efficient way to show that algebraically is 7P. There we go. How'd you do on that page? Okay, number 5 is sometimes a little tricky for kids. It says if a submarine dives 150 feet, then it will be traveling at a depth of blank feet. So I want you to look at the picture for a moment. Right now, how far down is this? X. I don't know exactly how far down, but it's down below. Okay, so it's X, and it's going to dive another 150 feet. So where is it now? Okay, so it was X and then 150 more. So it was at X and it went 150 more. Sometimes because it's diving, we're thinking, oh, it's going down, it's subtracting. Okay, but in this problem, it wants to know what is this total distance, how far down it is. X and then another 150, X plus 150. Number 6, the floor is divided into 5 equal size areas for gym class. Each class has a playing area of blank square feet. Well, what is the size of the gym that they're going to split up? So if we look over here, we go, oh, it's A. So that's the total. A is the total amount. And what they do is divide it into 5 equal areas. So you're going to take the total amount A and divide it into 5 equal areas. Or hopefully we're remembering, a lot of times you'll see algebraically A divided by 5 written that way. Number 7, the charge for a book that is D days overdue. There's a lot going on in this one, so hopefully you kind of pulled it apart. Maybe reread this little section right here real carefully. Okay, so check it out. I kind of zoomed it in for you there. A library charges 10 cents for each overdue book. It adds an additional charge. Okay, so these last 2 problems are a little trickier. You're going to read them very carefully, and Mrs. Kelzer is going to talk with you about them in class because I'm very interested in your thoughts.